Hello and welcome to another episode of our Shop Talk and our Unbottleneck podcast. With me today is the famous and original search engine optimization ninja, Jim Boykin. We're going to be talking about some of our search engine history, and we're going to talk about the search community. I'm your host, Steve Wiideman, and again, we're going to be talking to Jim in a minute. He's from the Internet Marketing Ninjas, formerly We Build Pages. I've been following him for, I don't know, what feels like pretty close to 20 years. He's also been a part of a very popular webmaster forum and a billion other projects he's been involved with over the years. Jim speaks at more events than I can count, and we're super lucky to have him today. So Jim, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to talk with you again. I always enjoy getting time to talk with you, Steve. About myself, started the company 21 years ago. I think that's kind of us in the background there. We're about 40 people now, 40 to 45. I think we've been that for the past 7 years. Do lots of services. Probably our biggest thing is the content marketing. A lot of people call that link building, but we're writing either trust-based content or viral content and trying to get it spread. Is a lot of the work that we do.
That's awesome. And yeah, We Build Pages was, when did you start that?
That was in '99, so it was just me for years, and really liked the We Build Pages company. I think we shifted in end of 2011. We renamed it to Internet Marketing Ninjas. There was a lot of people that thought that we were website designers or content creators, and I'd be like, no, we actually do an internet marketing and SEO, and they'd be like, I don't understand the name. When I first started, I thought I was going to be a website designer. That's the name We Build Pages. I was a single person trying to sound like, I'm a big company or something. We build pages. It's not just me, the man behind this.
That's funny.
Very quickly.
I remember. Did you realize how much money you probably made other experts in just having some of the pages that you had up with transparency? Whenever somebody would argue with me or sort of haggle us for prices on anything that we were doing or I was doing as a freelancer back in the mid 2000s, I'd always refer them to your link building page. And I think you had packages that were like $22,000 a month for link building before link building was even really a well-known thing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty incredible. And I'm sure you wouldn't have those prices up there if people weren't paying them back then. So
there were years when, going up to, 2005, 6, 7, 8, where we were doing stuff that I was going to say you can't do today, but you probably shouldn't have been doing then, which was the link buying. Right. And, we were really big into link buying. At the time we started it, we didn't think we were black hat. It's what everyone did. It's how you ranked.
The Wild West of SEO. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Google after a while said, no, you're a black hat if you're doing that. And, it's kind of, once you've been doing it, it's hard to stop,
Sure. Yeah. So thinking about that search engine history, I remember an early day when it was website promotion before anyone really called it SEO. We knew it was SEO, but we really didn't call it that. We would just get ourselves into directories. The Open Directory project was in the early days easy to get into before it became something you had to bribe to get into. There was the Yahoo directory. Yeah, I remember that was the way we started promoting our site.
Zeal was part of LookSmart, so Zeal also had a directory.
Yep. And then we would do all sorts of crazy things, like you mentioned, in the Wild West. And it wasn't just links. It was, we have a beautiful Flash website that was created in Macromedia Flash. And the client or the boss would say, I do not want to change my website. I spent $25,000 on it. Just make it rank. So 2002, 2003, we would do some things like create pages that had all sorts of keywords on them, and then JavaScript redirect to the Flash homepage, and then we submit it to Yahoo and some really crazy things. And then when on page, continued to be more of a factor, we would do all sorts of crazy things like if we couldn't, because all of our beautiful website was embedded in images, we would take the H1 tag and put it negative margin, like 2,000 pixels or something, or, or we'd use white text on a white background, or just anything that we could do to be able to rank a site that they were giving us very little ability to actually do anything with. So we knew the right way to do it, in terms of, what would be later on acceptable, but we just kind of did what we needed to do to get things to rank. And eventually,
Exactly.
they kind of came down, and what's the term? They laid the smackdown on the webmaster community and the wrist up. So
I think for years Google said, create a great website, focus on the user and not on the engine. And we laughed at them. We're like, it's all about backlinks, whatever, Google guy. And unfortunately or not, over the years, it's kind of like, that's what you got to do. I guess as SEO involves, what do you need to do to rank now? And, certainly there's other things that can help, but in the end, you're going to want to have a great site with a great user experience, and that has to be the end goal. If you do other things with links to artificially get yourself ranked, if you can't hold that position compared to other people, if your page can't compete with other pages, so to speak, like, you're just going to get pushed down anyways.
That's what we've been telling our clients is look, you can do anything you want and get a top position quickly, but you're not going to be able to sustain it, and you're going to pay more to clean it up, especially if you're a big brand. Let's completely start over on a brand new domain and 410 the old one, which we've had to do because we've had clients that have hosted pirated MP3s on a subdomain because they thought they'd use their web server as a file server, and all sorts of crazy things that you hear clients do that they don't tell you about. You're like, I can't recover you from this. We're going to have to start you over on a new domain.
Yeah.
So is the way it is. But what do you remember thinking about search engine history and kind of how it's evolved? What are some of your favorite moments?
Well, I remember, there used to be a whole bunch of major engines. Bruce Clay had a search engine relationship chart, and I remember,
Majoring calculators.
Yeah. I remember, we kept having to adjust Bruce Clay's search engine relationship chart, and it kept changing to where Google was like taking over more and more, powering everything, powering Yahoo, powering all these other places. And everyone was kind of switching to Yahoo. And I remember the day that I realized, hey, and this must have been 2001, I would suspect, where instead of being like all these engines and web position gold to optimize things for Excite and optimize for this and optimize for that, and there was the whole directory thing, but suddenly being like, oh, everything is Google now. And Google is all about backlinks. Like, all this other stuff doesn't matter, because the only thing that matters now is Google. And since it's Google, it's backlinks.
Right.
And I kind of remember the day that all that hit on me. I think I was crossing off lines on Bruce Clay's search engine relationship chart, and it kind of dawned on me, like, man, Google's 2/3 of all traffic today. Like, that's it. And Google's all about links, and thus everything I do from here forward has to focus on this links. I remember that day. I remember, and then funny in 2008, Google went after our company for buying links. I guess kind of leading up to that, or
they hit a couple of them.
They kind of came to us and in no uncertain terms said, "Thou shalt not buy links," and took a handful of our clients and pushed them down. And so, we had to refigure out, how do we get links without buying them? Links are going to have value. And I remember the day that I had the epiphany on how do you build links without buying them. I think the first epiphany was broken links. What if we find a page that's dead, but there's 200 other pages on the internet that link to that page? Hey, what if we can recreate that page, put it on a client site, right to all 200 people that are linking to the broken link, and be like, hey, you got a broken link, but I found a really good replacement for it over here. And I remember, I can still picture myself where I'm in that office probably at 2:00 in the morning, like, woe is me, can't sell links anymore. How do I reinvent the wheel? And the light bulb popping off. I still envision where I am, where it's like broken links.
And no more link wheels, no more three-way links, no more. What were the other ones?
Link trading, three ways, and.
Do you remember that? Back in the day, there were these networks. I think there's networks that still exist, like they're all trying to link to each other to help each other out. And it
And it's interesting because there's still some knowledge from that that still can be valuable. Like, some people went overboard it and did stuff that can be mapped, but the knowledge of how to do that correctly can still be a benefit.
right.
Even if you go back to, remember, what was before link wheels, going back to the 90s, there were, what do they call them?
Link broker, paper post.
Uh,
Yeah, a good one, right? That was the blog network.
yeah. Yeah. Google's not a fan of guest blog posting either. That's another whole topic.
Yeah, it's amazing. Even if you write great content and you feel like, hey, I earned a link, Google doesn't care if you did it, and it's amazing.
Web rings. There you go. Going back to the 90s, the web rings, next
Yeah.
forward site.
And then the
Like,
Web 2.0 and the
yeah, but with something like that, you can create the neighborhood. Like there is some neat things that can be done with that old knowledge. Like some of the old things that worked, there's still some good knowledge in that. You can't quite do it the way that you used to, but you can do it in a white hat way that makes sense, that algorithmically is good. It's good. So some of those old black hat stuff can be used for white hat stuff too.
So there was this, I remember back in the day, there was this tool that we used to use, and we would call it the Google Dance, and we'd watch the different servers to see, a client would say, hey, I'm not seeing myself rank. Like, ooh, I wonder if there's an update happening. You go to this Google Dance and you could refresh and have all like 3 of the Google web servers up. Back in the day, we could actually see and watch them as they're updating their servers one by one. Hey, big rollout must be coming out because one of the servers is showing different results, and we could sort of preview it using that tool. That was one of my favorite things, was being able to do that. And then, of course, Google had to name their event the Google Dance, which
Yep.
interesting. But those were the days. I think in the early heydays, we were all to some degree pioneers. Me, I was more of a follower. I was following, of course, you and Bruce Clay and Aaron Wall and Danny Sullivan. I used to love, just kind of diving into all that amazing content you guys were posting online. So then, go ahead.
I was a big follower as well for years. I was a huge fanboy. I think the first time I met Bruce Clay, I asked for his autograph.
No way. That's amazing.
I think I got Joe Whalen's autograph, Danny Sullivan's. Yeah, I won my first conference from Joe Whalen, and I wrote her some huge letter that like meeting her and Bruce Clay and Danny Sullivan would be to me like meeting the Beatles, and blah 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 blah. Yeah, I was a huge fanboy.
Right.
Do
you still maintain friendships with all those folks? Do you guys still keep in contact?
I do. We're all friends on Facebook. I know they're more quiet these days, but yeah, it's the nice thing about this industry is that I've definitely made, I feel, some lifelong friends, and it's nice as an industry where I don't feel it's like cutthroat. I feel like everyone
supports each other.
Everyone, yeah. And the more you help, the more you tend to get back. I remember early on, I'd go to a conference and would go up to someone. And I'd be like, so what is it that you do? And they'd be like, I don't talk about it. And I'd be like, come on, man. It's like we're here to be friends, And
yeah, there's still a few of those, the agencies that, so the reality is most of those firms don't want to talk about it because they're doing things that they know they probably shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, that could be too.
Yeah, it's interesting.
They found that the more you share, the more that tends to come back in the industry. I've always tried to be very open, and it tends to come back.
So the big changes that happened, as I recall, the larger ones with Google in particular, were the big Panda update that affected content quality, and then the Penguin update. So I remember everybody going on a link war, after the Panda update, and then they did this Penguin update, and everybody went on, hey, what do we got to do to do SEO when we're confined to not being able to do all these old link techniques, and now I feel like the message from Google is really, when we say how do we rank a page, their message, the theme anyway, is we don't know. We don't know what the algorithms are doing. We just put some things in based on some of the quality feedback we get, and we hope that we get good results. So they couldn't tell you at any given point why a page ranks or doesn't rank. So a lot of the engineers, or the former Google engineers that sort of tout themselves as, I know how the algorithm works. really may not know as much as they think they know because of, the more recent changes like BERT and handling long tail queries and voice search becoming more and more important. One thing I did email John Mueller about this, and I understand why he didn't reply to this one. He usually, replies with, "Hey, thanks for, you know, chatting with me," or whatever. But I said, I just noticed that there's about, I don't know, 50,000 websites that are all sharing this short summary, and they're all on .ru and .pl and .cn domains. They're just basically splattering this paragraph across the internet, and now they're getting the featured snippet from it. Is that what we need to do to get the featured snippet? Is just spam the living hell out of the internet? And are you going to come up with a filter that handles it in the same way that your Penguin, now part of the core algorithm filter does? And of course, I didn't get a response, but I feel like a lot of the industry who's picking up on, hey, things are going to move to voice. The new Google Glass is out, and people are thinking about it a little bit more. So I wonder if, and tell me what you think, I wonder if Google's actually going to figure out, the short summary thing, because it's working. I know they filter out links now. They're not really penalizing them as much, but they're filtering them out or ignoring them, as John says. But I wonder if they're going to figure out a way to determine whether or not a paragraph, across 50,000 pages, what percent of that is manipulated and which is real. What do you think?
Well, with their new with the new thing they've been talking about, they haven't said exactly how they're going to lay it out. What do they call it? Like the text-based index.
Right. Yeah, I saw that.
I think that's the name of it. But they gave like one example, and it kind of looks similar to a featured snippet, but they haven't quite said exactly how it's going to look. I'm not sure if they know, but I wonder if if they're able to better identify sections of a web page that if that particular issue, you'd think that Google would know that. Can break apart a piece of a page to know that, hey, this paragraph here is duplicate across multiple sites, multiple pages. You'd think they'd be able to
do some work with snippets, right? Don't you have like some cool tool that you created?
We do. We built a featured snippet tool, and I think it's still for sale, but I'm not even sure. I'll tell you the funny thing: when Google removed,
it's a good problem to have.
Listing
stuff. I don't know if any of it's probably making money. Who knows?
Yeah, it might be. I'm not sure. Like I have other, I think when Google,
I wish I had it.
I think in January of this year, the beginning of this year, Google then took away the organic listing. So, if you had that feature snippet and you had the organic, hey, great. Like definitely aim for that feature snippet. Right. As soon as Google removed you from the organic, if you had the featured snippet, that kind of changed the game. Mm-hmm. Where sometimes it's better to have the featured snippet, sometimes it's not, because if which is going to get more clicks, the featured snippets, which is there to try and give the answer on the page so that there's not a click, or the number one result, which is there to get the click. So which one is better? And
I'd rather have the link to your page than the link to a Google search result.
Yeah, so it's it hasn't been, I guess you should still target it, but I guess we have our featured snippet tool, but we have another tool that we're probably a month away from releasing, which takes that to a whole other level.
Looks like I lost my cam.
Yeah, there you are.
Hey, I'm back on. So in your opinion, looking at this whole featured snippet thing, what have you learned using this tool that might help those people who are thinking about like voice search and the evolution of kind of where search is going? What are some things aside from structured markup, which we know about, syndication, not spamming, but syndication? What are some things that you think really play a role in helping? Let's say there's 10 pages that all have a short summary at the top, and they're all trying to get that feature snippet. Which one's going to win and why?
Sure. When we look at I guess there's the first question of gathering the questions. You can run a couple of your search phrases you're targeting, look at the people also ask if they show up, and just grab those questions. All of the questions are going to be related, plus all those people also ask questions. If you just search them, are going to show a featured snippet as well. So I guess there's the collecting of the questions that you want to use.
The research.
once you have the questions, then I look at it as 3 places you could put those questions. And in a perfect world, I'd put them all 3 places. So I'd say, all right, if there's questions that relate to a specific page, I would go to the bottom of that page and add an FAQ and put the question on the existing page that's relevant to.
Right.
I would also have an FAQ page as well. So a separate FAQ page, I would put that question on that page and answer it uniquely. So I'd answer it differently than I did on the bottom of the other page. Give it a different
2 chances to
reword
win.
it. Yeah, so it's unique. And if that question, if that question appears to be a popular question, we have tools that kind of, you can throw in like 1,000 phrases and it scrapes all the people also ask and shows how often they're asked. And so when I see stuff that's really popular, and you may just know from looking, hey, I always see this question on the bottom. But, a third place is, is to have a whole page about that topic. So maybe it's a blog post or a white paper or something. But, the page that's going to rank the most or the highest usually is going to be a whole page dedicated to that question.
Right.
So that's the H1 on the top. You got a short paragraph after it. You got a bunch of H2s with backup content underneath.
Questions, right.
It's kind of the best page. The one on the bottom of the money page is certainly a good page as well, because that may have
a term I haven't heard in a while. Money page.
And then the third one would be the FAQ page. So those are the places where I look to put it. And when you mention all the other things like schema, one of the biggest things that we found is have that question in an H tag. Maybe it's an H2 or an H3.
I've seen that a lot too. What impact do you think the syndication makes after you've sort of mastered the whole landing page and markup and H tags?
The more signals you can send to any of those pages, the better. Whether it's if the blog post gets signals or the nice thing about your existing page is there may already be signals that may already rank really high. We've taken pages that currently do incredibly good in their industry. Maybe it's I don't know, I want to give an example, coffee cups in Albany, New York or something. We're already number 1 for all the phrases. It's like you go into that page and you do an FAQ on the bottom and you put all those questions, like bam, you
drive incremental traffic and move up your rankings.
Yeah. Or sometimes it's like, wow, you're not as high and your page isn't as powerful. Let's do a whole page about that topic. If it's really important, how can we get it interlinked throughout the site a lot? Can we get a site-wide link to it to make it appear to be a really important page because we really want to rank for that?
That's awesome. Yeah, I know it's going to be more important as voice becomes a bigger part of how we use search. But
exactly, and there's a lot of people that may not know that voice search optimization and featured snippet optimization is often the same thing.
Yeah.
Often, if you go, okay, Google, and you ask a question, like it's the same thing that Google shows in the featured snippet when Google kind of reads it back. It's the often featured snippet marketing is voice search engine marketing. It's trying to get that featured snippet. So as much as I talked about, hey, featured snippet optimization became less important because Google removed the organic. If I had a client where voice search was really important, then I would 100% want to have that featured snippet because the featured snippet is what Google's going to read off.
In their car, it'll be at home talking to their refrigerators or all their new home devices or the Google Nest or all the Alexas. Yeah, I see that happening. Thinking about that, being the pioneer that you are, what do you envision search evolving to over the next few years? How do you see it changing? Aside from them taking away our organic results and giving us less data to work with on paid search.
And maybe it's just more of that. There's the antitrust stuff going on. Is there going to be like Google 2, Google 3, Google 4, Facebook 1, Facebook? It's like that. No, I can't really picture any of that. There's been other search engines. I guess I hate to say it. It's more of the same. it's really this: in order to win, you've got to have the world's best website. And
which can be challenging for a local business that doesn't have $3,000 to invest in a usability and conversion rate optimization expert or
yeah,
somebody
but
who has.
maybe you can think of everything. If you're a local restaurant, then why not, also do all sorts of content about your local place, your community. Become that hub, become that trusted resource. Write about, if you're a restaurant in some area, why not, on there have a blog that covers everything to do in that area. You've got the news, you've got, I don't know, hiking trails in your area, you've got check out this or that. Like, if you're doing stuff to get signals to your site, I'm not just saying blog for the sake of blogging, but if you're creating content that's also earning signals, and that's an important thing. Like, you can't just create crappy content. You got to create stuff that's earning signals. If you're creating stuff that's earning signals and your site is constantly earning signals, I mean, just this morning I was doing an analysis of one of the clients.
Okay.
And they do lots of things to earn signals to their site. And I know that about 90% of their traffic is from Google. A little bit of it is Bing or Yahoo.
Sure.
Tiny bit of social. And they're very robust in every area. They're a fairly big company, but I think they've been with us for like 4 years. But they started fairly small, but they do everything. They have a heavy, robust social media campaign. We have a heavy content machine. We're creating all sorts of resources. They're in the financial space, so we're creating all sorts. And they're in, they're in like a very narrow. Where's my finger here? Very narrow finance area.
Sure.
And we've certainly covered that area to death, but we've also expanded their financial resources on their site to cover, all sorts of financial stuff, tools and calculators and mathematical
brand equity,
all sorts of resources, and all that stuff is getting signals to the site, which is also causing their main money pages to rank really high. For some of these stuff, like, there's no way we're going to get links to these main money pages. Why would someone link to the New York, whatever it is, I could compare it to something like loans. Like, why would someone link to the New York loan page? Like, it ain't going to happen, And so it's like, all right, but if you're a loan site, you're going to create tons of resources to get those signals. Those pages are going to link
some links. Yes.
But it's not just creating the best site and the best usability from what you currently have. If you're just thinking like, I've got 500 PLUs or product numbers, and that's what I sell, and that's my site.
That's the client that said, I used to rank for everything and now I don't. Fix it.
Yeah.
Fix situation.
So there's a couple of things. Each one of those pages has to be made a hell of a lot better, for one. But then it's like, okay, you've also got to go outside of that. You can't just be those. If you sell, I don't know, swimming pools, you got to also have tons of stuff about pool safety and pool first aid. Like, you got to be the resource in your industry, and just beyond your little thing, you got to think bigger and be that kind of resource.
Yeah, it's so important. I remember doing that with Meineke Car Care in 2014. We helped them to create a cadence of producing content similar to what your tool does and finding those questions. So we did a little bit of research back when a lot of the questions weren't really available, and we gave them basically a weekly page to write. What's the difference between standard and synthetic oil? How do you jumpstart a car battery? And so the cadence was, let's create this amazing page with pictures that we created and videos that we did, and then let's spend the next week promoting it to our partners and our peers and other folks, that bloggers that talk about automotive. Let's share it with them and maybe even feature them in a few of them as ego bait or whatever to get them to want to share. Once we've accomplished those 2 or 3 good relevant links, let's do it again the next week. And it's just a really repeatable process. And I think it was nearly 500,000 visits like 18 months later. It worked. And now they can use remarketing and serve an oil change ad, since oil changes, unless you have an electric car, need to happen every 3 months. So it was the perfect catalyst to driving more business by starting with that whole give, with amazing, really helpful content that solves problems. And you're right, it's really difficult for smaller businesses to do that because it requires, a dedicated resource to do nothing but just really build and create, helpful content that competes against the WikiHows and the sites that have a better technology stack and more money to put into content. So, and by the way, for local, I found something really interesting on that same note. When you're struggling, when I've noticed that a location is struggling, what we've said is, hey, let's start promoting events. Let's get some event markup on that page so that one, we have an extra row in the search results to affect user behavior and appearance. And then let's get our neighboring businesses to participate in that event. So whether it's a charity thing or if you're just doing something for the community, you're like, hey, you can't put money into it because the business doesn't have any, no problem. You don't have the time to come in and help. Well, perhaps I can talk to your webmaster and you can at least help us promote the event. And then boom, you deep link that right to that local page, and it supports the newer and growing algorithm that we've noticed on local that links are becoming more and more important. So I've always tried to suggest that, because then you're giving, and the end result of that is it reciprocates in terms of links and mentions and that sort of thing. So the future of search really just continues to be the same. Focus on really creating higher quality content, I think is what the message is, right?
It's, and I hate to say it because it just sounds so redundant. Create the best site ever. It sounds like the same stuff I've been hearing for 20 years. But I guess, for 15 of those years, I was like, yeah, whatever. I know what the game is really about. But it's really the future. Study your competitors. I think a lot of people don't look at their competitors. They're in their bubble of their site, and they think my site's the best site, and that's all that they look at. And they're not really digging into their competitors. What are the competitors doing in every area? What are they creating? What are the new links they're getting?
Use visual ping is one of the tools we use. Whenever a competitor changes a page that competes against our page, we'll get a little notification. Something has changed. It's a free tool for up to so many queries, or so many snapshots, but it's called visual ping. It's a Chrome extension. And I know Public Storage did that very heavily. They would, their leadership team there would, at the end of their monthly reports, there'd be a whole appendix section that would say, here's what your competitor's site looked like last month. Here's what it looks like this month, and here are the changes. And they have both desktop and mobile views, since mobile became more and more important. And they did that for all the competitors, all the main ones. I think there was like 6 or 7 different competitors. Smart. It's really smart to do that.
Yeah, and things to analyze too are like, what are the pages that competitors are creating that are earning backlinks?
Yeah.
That's a whole thing.
Ahref has a tool that does that. You can look at the top linked pages. In fact, I remember doing some of the research we were doing with the restaurant chains, and that's when we discovered Veterans Day being such an important key element to the overall link building. And funny enough, talking about links and broken links, when we started with one of our clients who does a really big Veterans Day promo every year, they had 15 different Veterans Day pages, all of which were 404, with over 5,000 inbound links pointing to those 404 pages. So in one quick swoop, we were able to redirect through and all of those to the permanent current page, and just, hey, 5,000 new links, is like the easiest thing in the world. That's so important. I think we were looking at like link bait ideas. What are other websites in our industry doing? Wow, Wendy's is doing a college thing, but they're stupid and putting it on a separate domain. So all their links are going to this other college domain, where they really should have just put it at wendys.com/college program or whatever it was.
But what's fun too is to look at your competitors' backlinks that are going to 404 pages on their site.
Yeah.
And you reproduce that content and you write to the other people and say, can you change that? There's a link over here that's dead. Do you want to change it to over here?
Broken links. I love it. That and unlinked mentions are easy to get too most of the time.
Yeah.
So if someone mentions you somewhere on their website, but they're not linking to, those are great. You just go out and say, hey, thanks so much for mentioning us. By the way, when somebody tries to click on our name, it doesn't take them to our website so they can learn more, because we never use the word link in any sort of an email because they're so jaded by link requests.
Yeah.
So we didn't really talk about our community much, but I've been watching, on Facebook and watching our peers and struggling through this pandemic. And I was actually inspired by you because, one of the close friends of mine who got hit really hard, you jumped in right away and you said, I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna help you out as a peer and as a friend. You're not gonna go down on my watch. And I was inspired by that. And I've helped at least four of our peers who posted the same thing. Like, well, it looks like I'm gonna lose all my clients now. So if anyone has any work, and I'm like, but I really don't. But why don't you come in and do a second QA of one of the projects we're working on, or give us a second set of eyes? And we've done that, and it felt really rewarding to finally give back to the people that I've been following, who've been sharing, amazing advice on social networks. I think you hit it on the nail with just how unique our industry is and how we help each other. It's so important. What else? What else do you like about our community?
I think that's a big part of it. There's, on Facebook as well, there's a handful of support groups that, there's a lot of like,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of different support groups where anyone that comes in is like, hey, I wanted to vent about something that I would never vent about in public, but, I feel good with you guys and posting in there.
And there's less than 60 in most of those too. And I remember looking at it and I'm like, how many people are in this group? And it's just amazing how much love somebody gets. Sometimes like, look, I'm not looking for a reply. I want somewhere I can scream. And so I think
Yeah.
everyone will use, that little caring, emoji or whatever. And it's just nice to know that some people, they understand what you're going through and they've been there. I mean, as SEOs, we're a very interesting culture where we're analytical and being able to do research and study numbers. We're sort of the introverted, logical developers who do a little bit of coding and understand HTML and CSS and some JavaScript and maybe even a little Python now. But we're also a little bit, in a way, we're like psychologists and understanding user behavior and what level of a sales funnel someone is at and how we need to get them through that funnel. But we're also charismatic enough to be outgoing, the extrovert part of our introverted personality, to pick up the phone and send an email and say, hey, I created something amazing. Would you take a look at it? And if it's worthy, maybe share it with some of your audience. We worked really hard to put this together. So it's interesting to take all those personalities, into play, the analytical and
Yeah.
sort of introvert, and then the extrovert, outgoing. So in doing that, we're very unique. My understanding is we're kind of the top 2% of the marketing community, and our ability to be that versed in so many different areas and disciplines of digital, that it's a lot of pressure. And for those SEOs who are working for a corporation, sometimes they have to take all of those roles themselves, and it can be wearing on you mentally because you're so responsible for different things that one person shouldn't be solely responsible for, but the company doesn't have the budget or can't quantify why it's important to have a full team. So I think it's great that our community, like, we understand that. I feel like we understand each other, and we have each other's backs, which I think is great.
Yeah. I think a lot of us are geeky, nervous SEOs that, like, are speaking in front of an audience or whatever isn't our funnest
And then
thing.
at the after party event, you'll find us like in a corner on our cell phones hiding out. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's funny. I think a lot of us, even like speaking on stage or something, it isn't isn't the most comfortable thing for extroverts or whatever, or introverts, or introverts, I think is the word.
Intro extroverts.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny. Like, but you get any of us on a one-on-one and like bring up SEO and we'll talk for hours. Like, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. That's how I put my kids to sleep.
There
Okay,
you
let
go.
me tell you about this new BERT algorithm update that just happened. What it stands for is binary, and it's like they're out. So hey, I got a lightning round of questions for you if you're up for it.
Bring them on.
You ready? All right, these are tough ones. So, all right, number one, what are your favorite 3 SEO tools?
Well, we use all of our own internal tools that we've developed, but besides those, a lot of the APIs that we use, I'd say like SEMrush and SpyFu, I love for keyword research and pay-per-click research. For link data, I'm looking at Ahrefs, Moz, and Majestic. I like all 3 of them.
Do you aggregate all three when you're doing your research, or do you?
We do. Plus another one called SEO Kicks. It's a
I've
company.
never heard of that one. SEO
Yeah.
Kicks.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
It's SEOkicks.de, I believe.
Huh. I'll check that one out.
Grab links from those 4 data sources within our tools. What other tools? Google Analytics.
What do you need analytics for? We don't track that. So who should we be following on social? For those people who are listening are sort of new to this whole search engine optimization industry. Aside from, of course, you better be following Jim Boykin on social. But who else do you recommend following?
I'm not super active on Twitter, but I will say on Twitter, I've probably got, I don't know, 300 or 400 people that I'm following. And probably 90% of them are hardcore SEOs.
Okay.
And 10% maybe are employees or local people or famous people. But for new people, look at here's some old names for new people that you might not be aware of. Aaron Wall. What's his Twitter? He keeps changing his Twitter profile, though. That's the thing. He keeps changing the name. I think it might be at SEO Book. He's still around, actually, on Twitter.
So Aaron Wall, and then just basically stalk your profile. I got it. All right, cool.
Literally, like my profile is about 90%, and it's not everyone either. Like I don't follow people unless like I really, really know them. So 90% of my Twitter following are super hardcore SEOs.
Now, are there favorites SEO groups in Facebook or LinkedIn that you'd recommend folks get into? I know I follow SEO Signals Lab and White Hat SEO and a few others. What are some of your favorite groups?
I think most of the groups that I belong to, unfortunately, or that I enjoy, are private groups. So like invite only, unfortunately.
Another favorite of mine was Dumb SEO Questions. I love that group too.
Well, there you go.
So helpful to other people. Yeah. All right. One SEO myth that drives you crazy.
Just one?
I told you I had some tough ones.
I'm gonna rip off a whole bunch of them. Links don't matter anymore is one that, like, are you kidding me? I got an email from Bing Search Console the other day, and it said like you've got errors on your site, and I'm like, wow, I'm getting an email from Bing. I haven't received an email from Bing in years. So like after finding the password, after lots of logins and stuff, and logging into Big Search Console to see what are these errors.
Dwayne, don't listen. Dwayne, cover your ears.
No, he's no longer there. He's actually at Yex now.
Yex, yep.
But I go in to see what are these errors, because it said something like 117 severe errors was something like that in my email, and I go in and it was like 112 title tags or a couple characters too long, and some of your meta are too short. It was like I went in and I was like, what is this? Like,
Bing, if that's what you're paying
wrote this in 1998 and it's still here in Bing Search Console. Like, why am I getting an email about some of these errors? I was like,
so silly.
But that's little minor stuff.
But links is the big one, you think? The one SEO that links are dying and not going to be worth anything.
I think there's a lot of people that hope, because there's a lot of people that ignore link building because it's hard and they're worried that they're going to get penalized, they're going to do something wrong, or the only way that they know to link build is to do something wrong. And so there's a lot of people that just want to ignore it. Like, I'm going to put my head in the sand and try and pretend that link building doesn't exist, and we're going to do a big SEO campaign, but we're not even going to think about link building. Yeah. That drives me out. Or big companies like, we don't need to build links or do anything for it. And it's like, well, you're not number one for everything, and your competitors are kicking your butt and they're doing stuff. They're creating great resources on their site and building their site into something really special, and you're not, and you're going to be left in the dust.
Yeah. So fastest way to rank a new page in organic. Let's just say you're a mid-sized business. You've been online 5-10 years. They say, hey, we want to rank for this new area for us. I don't know, what would be, in your opinion, what's the fastest way to get that page up and ranked?
Well, so we're talking about this as an old established site and a new page on an old established site.
Yep.
Well, there's a couple ways. If you don't care if the site gets banned, you're going to buy a whole bunch of links to that new page. That'll get you ranked really high.
Everyone cover your ears.
But the problem is your site may get banned. So
Right.
maybe not do that. So that's the quickest way. What's the second quickest way? Or what's the quickest way without getting banned? Maybe that's the question. Quickest way without getting banned is going to be probably to, write the world's ultimate page. So you'd study every page out there, try and come up with every question, everything that you could write about, and you would have the world's ultimate page with everything anyone could ever want to know about, and your answers are better, and your calculators are better, and your equations are better, and you've done original research, and just some great, great, great page that's better than everyone else's. Then you're going to want to make sure it has a site-wide link. So like, don't put on a blog post where 3 months later it's going to be buried in the site 3 levels back with 2 internal backlinks to it. Like,
Right.
if it's important, you're going to want to make sure it's got a site-wide link to it. All your, you may want to link to it within your content. Can you get other sites linked to it? Is your content so amazing that someone else would link to it?
Right.
Is there some original study on there or something? Maybe, maybe not. Usually it's probably maybe not. It's a product page, so it's like, all right, is there other stuff you can build around that product page?
Supportive
That
content.
you can feed into there?
Right.
But yeah, I guess it would start with a great writer. And try and I feel weird because I'm starting to sound like Google and what they used to say over the years. And as I get older,
Both of
I
us.
feel like I'm starting to sound Google, and it turns me off. Like, create a great site. Oh God, I'm saying it myself.
I have a client that asks this question once in a while. Hey, I have a new page. And the first thing he'll say to me is, and before you ask, yes, I added a link from the homepage to that page, right? Because the homepage carries the most page rank most of the time on the site. But that's usually my first thing is like, yeah, let's reverse engineer the top 10 or 20 ranking pages. Let's get those that aren't competitors to link to us that show up on the first 2 pages. And then let's link ourselves as much as we can through our homepage and through the rest of the websites, to that content.
Yep.
Fastest way to rank a listing in Google Maps.
I don't know. Not my specialty. I'd have to ask Ann Smarty on that one.
All right, cool. Let's see. Most important landing page SEO focal point. Is it the title? Is it markup? What do you think is the most important in your opinion?
Probably the title. The title normally is
first thing the user sees before they even go to your site.
Yeah. It's the biggest, as far as I know, it's the biggest on-page optimization factor. Plus, and the title is important because you got to do 2 things. You got to get your keyword words in there. You have to have a reason for someone to click on it. So it's like, it has to be enticing as well. So it's like, you got to search 2 things: keywords and a reason to click. But yeah, title.
All right. Let's see. What is in your opinion, the best link building technique? You'd mentioned earlier reclaiming broken links. What do you is that you think your favorite or the best one?
No, we hardly do that anymore, actually.
Okay.
I guess there's if we create something and it goes viral and it gets suddenly hundreds of links and tons of news mentions and millions of visits, I guess that's my favorite. But that's kind of not everything that we create does that. It's not everything that we create does that. What's my favorite, I guess, would be creating trust bait stuff, teacher bait stuff, org bait stuff, gov
data, right? The data. I've always told our clients that if you can produce data that no one else has about your customers, about their experiences, what they like, what they don't like. If Apple said it turns out 40% of iPhone users prefer X, people would link and share that like crazy, right?
Yeah, and if you were Apple and you created something like the ultimate Steve Jobs biography page, and then you went out and wrote to tons of other places that link out to Steve Jobs stuff and said, here's another link I think you should add to the page because it's a great Steve Jobs biography page. And then if they suddenly started linking to it, then they would rank better for smartphones by pushing it forward.
Next one. Is EAT more important on the website or off of it? Denny Sullivan said in one of his posts that, hey, we do look at expertise, authority, trust kind of signals, but it's really off the website. Our quality raters guidelines are really more for us to just to sort of periodically update our algorithms with. We don't actually penalize anyone for not having, a verified doctor link or something on a page. In your opinion, which more important, off page or on page with EAT?
Well, interesting question.
It's another tough one.
No, but when we talk about EAT, I think we're almost going, when I think about EAT, I go almost way back. Do you remember that article that Amit Singhal wrote when Panda came out? And it was something like recommendations for how to write trusted content. It was,
yeah, right. Mm-hmm. We actually
was like
our page level content audit, all of those factors.
Yeah. So, that's, we started basing our content rubrics off of what he said in that document. To me, that was a very important document.
Right.
Amit Singhal, I forget the name of it, but I think it came out the day that Penguin came out. Panda.
We'll find it. I'll put it in the link in anywhere we have the video going, so that way people can read it themselves. But you're right. That's a good one.
I also spoke with John Mueller about that as well. So I've got a couple blog posts about that. I also did a takeoff of that post as well. There might be a couple fun stuff you can post.
You're leaning toward on page then.
Yeah, but again, it's everyone should read the Google Quality Rater guidelines. That's another thing. They're constantly updated. If it's been a couple of years, read them again.
Pick up the visual ping. We do that with the SEO starter guide and some of our other favorite documents. So whenever there's an update, we get that little, here's a change, what the change is, what it was.
So everyone, if you're into SEO, you should definitely read the Quality Rater guidelines and understand what it is that the humans are looking for. Now, understand that what the humans do does not affect the algorithm, but what they do is they take what the humans do and their comparisons and try and adjust the algorithm based off of that, not on specific phrases, but overall. So know that Google's algorithm is trying to do what the Quality Rater guidelines is having people look at. So know that, that the goal of what they're having their Quality Rater guidelines grade is kind of the goal of the algorithm. Right. And part of what the quality raters are looking at, are things like the expertise and the authoritative and the trust. And, there's certain things that you can certainly do to your website. When you go to your website, if you think of it as like how a quality rater is told to treat the site, which is how the algorithm is doing it, it's kind of like go to the contact us or about us page and start making judgments. That's almost where the start of it is. Is this a real company? Is there an address? If you're on a page, is it authored by someone? Does that person appear to be trusted? Is the site trusted? But, you certainly, one of the things that people should do is read the Quality Rater guidelines and then go into their site and pretend like, you're a quality rater and what are the things you're now going to look at, and so part of it is going into your about us page, and putting trust everywhere on your homepage, or like everywhere that quality rater may be looking, or an algorithm later.
Might even be like an Upwork task where you could say, hey, I just created this page. We just launched it. Please use this Quality Rater guideline to give us a score. That might be an interesting idea is to take their Quality Rater guidelines and really build it into the form they're probably using on the back end and then giving it to somebody at Upwork or somewhere to go through. That's kind of a neat concept. I might have to try that just to see just how EAT our pages really are. All right, last question. Does offline marketing help improve keyword rankings?
It can. Some of the most clever things I've seen. This was years ago, but do you remember? I don't know if you saw these.
Panasonic one?
Which one?
Panasonic. It was at the Super Bowl, and the Panasonic did a commercial. It said, "Don't believe us, ask Google." And they.
Oh, yeah, that's similar. There was one TripAdvisor used to do commercials where it would say, "Don't just go to New York hotels. Type in TripAdvisor New York hotels." And everything was like the searches and saying, "Don't just search for this, search for TripAdvisor this." And I was like, "Oh, how freaking clever!"
Yeah. I saw a brand new billboard last week that just had their name. I wish I could remember the name. Should have taken a picture of it. Just had their name. And I'm like, there's nothing else on that billboard. Oh, I get what they're doing. They're trying to get people to search for them by name to see what the heck they are. Genius.
we've had some other clients that have done some really neat things. We had one of them that created a holiday around their product.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say which product, but it was I don't know. Let's pretend it was phones, like even though it wasn't. But they created like National Phone Day,
Okay.
and then they had a big parade in New York City, and hired a whole bunch of people to like march around about, it's National Phone Day or whatever it was, and it got tons of press and tons of links, and
Mm.
there might have been people in bikinis and things like that,
Sure.
for the
That's
product,
what we think about when we think of New
helped
York.
with the PR. But it was actually funny. It turned into a Trivial Pursuit card. Like one day we were playing Trivial Pursuit, and I was like, "What a day is blah blah blah."
Yeah.
And it was like the client's holiday that they created themselves and actually made it to a Trivial Pursuit card. We had another client that did these crazy commercials, and the commercials were so crazy and off the wall that everyone wrote about it, and it got tons of links.
Yep.
And
See
it was
that the Hawk Lawyer do that a few times. You see this like really weird, strange. Like, why would you do? Oh, that's why you did it, because you wanted people to remember and search for it by name. We
yeah.
had a client who was in the gold business, and back in 2009, 2010, and it was funny because he was like, "Look, my local rankings are dominated. I have more reviews, I have more links, I have better content." All of a sudden, this Gold Max company comes out of nowhere with no reviews. They have no links. They have no on page. In fact, some of the listings don't even have website links to them. But they're killing me right now. And so we went into the Google. Well, the next day we went into the Google Search Planner, but the night before, I just happened to be up late and I see a commercial with Robin Leach, and he's like, "I'm Robin Leach, and you search for Gold Max," and so we looked at the Google Keyword Planner, and sure enough, there's a trend upward in brand searches for Gold Max. As soon as those commercials ended and the searches stopped, the rankings went back to normal, because they didn't do anything on page to keep becoming or staying relevant to it. But if they had done a good job with SEO first and then did that play, they might have stuck and still had some really good rankings. But they did.
Yeah.
But that was interesting that off-page commercial drove brand search, and people modified their search with Gold Max, Cash for Gold, Cash for Gold, Gold Max. How much does Gold Max pay for Cash for Gold? They were doing all these different queries that they hadn't done prior to that commercial going. So we absolutely knew that there was a correlation between offline and what was influencing search, and with brand value. I know there's no domain authority, but there's brand authority for sure. That made such a difference in that getting that ranking. So I kind of feel like there is, but it's all just trial, error, experiment, and a lot of chin scratching. Like, that's interesting. Jim, this has been incredible. I know we're capping it out here in an hour. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with people who are listening or watching the video later about Internet Marketing Ninjas, or something that you're doing that they might be interested in learning more about?
Well, I'll just say that a lot of people get links from people with databases of link sellers. So like they got these spreadsheets, and they're like, "Oh, if you have a car site, we have a whole bunch of, we have thousands of bloggers, and several hundred are car bloggers, and we can get you links on these car blogger sites." And that's what a lot of people do. And a lot of that stuff is easily mapped out by Google, and all those sites are artificial. And a lot of people, they like getting the blog links from sites that are artificial, from spreadsheets. And I just say, try and stay away from that stuff. Our tools can map out all that stuff. If our tools can map it, Google can map it.
They can sign up for those at internetmarketingninjas.com.
No, the tools are private.
You're just teasing everybody.
Oh, you mean like those links? No, we don't sell those. That's the stuff to stay away from. I see so many people doing it. Like they learn that links is the key, and they go to some broker, and I'll take a whole bunch of those auto links on those auto blogs, and and then they end up getting in trouble later because all that stuff can be mapped. So stay away from that.
We'll just say for everyone watching, check out internetmarketingninjas.com. And I know you've probably got a backlog of clients that want to work with you, but get on the list if you need some really good high quality links. I've worked with you before, Jim. I know what you're capable of and what Ninjas does. So highly recommend you guys. And this is it's been another episode of the Unbottleneck podcast. Jim, thanks for joining us. And
Thank you,
guys,
Steve.
stay tuned for the next one. We'll put some links in the comments for all the stuff we talked about today. And look forward to doing this again with you.
Rock and roll, Steve. Thank you.